All right, today we are looking at 5 clawhammer banjo techniques that are going to make your playing sound a little more impressive, but they're actually really easy, right? So these are the little tricks you can pull out when you want to sound fancy, right? So let's get into it. First thing, if you are still just learning the basics, if you are just trying to get acquainted with this crazy instrument, I've got a free 90-minute video course. I'll link it in the description. It's Quickstart Guide to the Banjo. It'll get you started, and then you can come back here and learn the fancy stuff, right? So our first technique is excellent for providing sort of a rapid fire feel to your banjo playing. It gives you this sense of speed, a little bit of choppiness. That sounds really nice sometimes on like faster or melody heavy songs. It's called double thumbing, and it's super easy. So it's really just a slight variation on your basic Bum Diddy. So if you're starting with just the basic Bum Diddy, Bum Diddy, right? You should, if you've watched some of my videos, be sinking your thumb into the 5th string on every downbeat, right? And then on that first one, so we go bum, and then we lift off without playing that 5th string, right? And then we come in and do the brush stroke, and then we do the thumb pluck. Well, all the double thumbing pattern does is just play that first thumb pluck. So instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're just going to play that thumb. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and very often we actually do this without a brush stroke. So we just do single note strikes. So it's more like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So let's look at a song where we can put our double thumbing pattern into action. And Old Joe Clark is a classic place that a lot of people use a double thumbing pattern here. So without it, it sounds like this. And with a double thumbing pattern, it becomes. Pretty cool, right? Really simple change. Nothing changes about our basic clawhammer banjo stroke. We still keep that pendulum motion going. We're just sounding that first thumb pluck rather than sort of silently lifting our thumb off. If you want the tab for Old Joe Clark, check the description. I will leave a link to it there. One thing I would mention about the double thumbing technique, a little mistake to maybe avoid, is that this can get overpowering fast and you get this really click-clack staccato type sound if you are always playing that thumb pluck, right? We like the little breathing room that skipping the thumb pluck uses. So be a little judicious here, right? Don't just use it everywhere you can. A little goes a long way on this technique. Our next technique is a wonderful substitute for drop thumbs. This is great if you're not comfortable with drop thumb yet, or maybe you are, but you just want to make it a little easier on yourself. This is still a technique I use all the time, even though I am comfortable with drop thumb, just because it can be very convenient. And so it's an alternate string hammer-on. So what we're doing here is if we are going from, say, one string to a lower string, where we might use a drop thumb, we're going to a fretted note on that lower string. So sometimes we might use a drop thumb there, right? So what we can do instead is just do an alternate string hammer-on. So we're going to hit that. I'm hitting that open 3rd and then the 2nd fret of the 4th string. So we can do open 3rd, hammer on with your index finger, with your middle finger onto the 2nd fret of that 4th string. And now hit your 4th string thumb pluck. So instead of, we're just going. So instead of that, your thumb playing that end of 1, so 1 and 2 and, we're using our left hand to play that. That can sound really nice, and it's just a little bit easier way to play a drop thumb. So if you see in a tab, if you're learning a song, you've got a drop thumb going between 2 strings and the lower note is fretted, you can oftentimes use this alternate string hammer-on just to make things a little easier on yourself. You're going to simulate that drop thumb sound, and it's going to sound really good. One thing to watch out for here is just make sure you're getting a nice, hard hammer-on. That is hugely important there. You don't want that too quiet or you kind of lose a lot of the effect. So really make sure you practice kind of slamming your finger down onto that fret nice and loud. Very often too, I'll use something like this for little backup patterns, like especially with the C chord where I like to kind of do all these hammer-ons between the 3rd and 4th strings. So like, So I'm not really worried about starting on either particular string. I'll just do the hammer on wherever I feel like it sounds good. And that way I can kind of travel between the third and fourth strings with these alternate string hammer-ons without having to worry about drop thumb. All right, technique number 3 is our alternate string hammer-on's brother. It's the alternate string pull-off. This is a really great technique for traveling up the strings because clawhammer, that basic down picking motion, doesn't make that too easy to do. There's not too many ways to move up the strings. Alternate string pull-off is a great way to do that. And this is also a great way to end phrases. It's an alternative to that basic Bum Diddy, right? We can use that as sort of a droney type alternative to that Bum Diddy, and that can sound really good. And I'll show you how that works in just a second, but let's look at the mechanics first. So there's a little bit of left and right hand coordination here that you need. It's going to take you a little bit of practice, but you'll get it. This technique really isn't too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the alternate string pull off between the third and the first strings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that open third string at the start of my Bum Diddy here. So just bum. As I do that, I'm setting my middle finger onto the second fret of the first string, right? Because I'm going to pull off on my first string. So I'm going 1, setting my finger here as I do that. And then on the end of 1, I'm just going to pull off with my left hand. My right hand's not involved here. So 1 and now we just complete the Bum Diddy with our right hand. So brush stroke, thumb pluck. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... You just want to work on getting that pull off nice and loud so it matches the volume of your index finger strike. And just get that coordination. So your finger is coming down onto the fret as you are striking with your right hand. You want to be there early, obviously. It's not good to sort of hit and then try to get your finger down. Otherwise, you're going to get a weird like hammer-on type sound there. The alternate string pull off is perfect if you want to travel up the strings melodically, like Cotton Eye Joe, for example. Where this also comes in really handy at the end of a phrase, at the end of a part, if you're just hanging out on the Bum Diddy for a measure or two. If you want to break that up and do something that sounds just a little bit different, you can do a alternate string pull off. So instead of Bum Diddy, I can go. So all I'm doing there is hitting that third string open, pull off on that first string. Now I'm coming in and hitting the first string with my index finger, thumb pluck. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we can use Old Joe Clark as a perfect example of how to end a phrase with an alternate string pull off. So it sounds like this. See how we end that first line just hanging out on that Bum Diddy? We can replace that with an alternate string pull off. Just gives it a little bit of a different sound, kind of breaks it up a little bit. You know, again, use this judiciously, kind of like that double thumbing pattern. This can feel very busy, but it can also sound really cool. All right, so far we've looked at ways to add notes to an arrangement. Let's think about ways we can take notes away. And this can be equally or even more effective than adding notes because we can give the song just a little bit of room to breathe, really focus on the melody. We add a little syncopation. And one of my absolute favorite ways to do that, this is like one of my all-time favorite techniques. I use it everywhere. It's called the M skip. So all we're doing with the M skip is just occasionally missing the brush stroke. So if we got our basic Bum Diddy rhythm going, all you're going to do when you want to do the M skip, same motion, you're just moving your fingers past the string on the brush stroke without actually hitting them. Simple, right? Everything stays the same. You're just moving your fingers past the strings rather than striking them on the dit of your Bum Diddy, the brushstroke piece. So next time you're learning a song from tab, maybe you downloaded Old Joe Clark from the description, I really encourage you to give the M skip a try. Really all it is when you see a brushstroke, think about skipping it and see how that sounds. Get comfortable moving between the two. I've got an M skip video, a detailed M skip video breakdown. I'll link here as well. But yeah, it just sounds so nice. And finally, I feel like this last technique sounds a little Baroque. We want to use it sparingly, but man, like it can sound so cool. And I'm talking about the hammer-on pull-off triplet. I feel like you see this in sort of more classical, maybe came from England type old-time songs. I don't know why I have that impression in my head. This technique almost sounds like medieval to me. So this one really is just a combination. So you're playing 3 notes The first note is played with your right hand. The next two are played with your left hand. It really is that simple. It's just you're striking with your index finger, hammer on, pull off, right? The thing that is a little tricky here is it has a slightly different rhythm than we're used to. It's a triplet rhythm. So normally we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? The triplet is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it divides each beat into 3 pieces instead of 2. So what you need to do is briefly switch from your 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. That's the tricky part, right? Going from dividing each beat into 2 pieces, into 3 pieces, back into 2. And I really encourage you to practice this with a metronome just to make sure you have that timing right. But the technique itself is really simple and it can sound really good. Think about any time you're just kind of hitting an open note and maybe hanging out there for a little while. A triplet can really add some variety and sound really cool. So just as an example with Old Joe Clark. We can add a triplet maybe when we go to that first fret of the second string. Kind of cool, right? And there's various places you can use this. Like I said, if you're just sort of hanging out on a note for a little bit, see if maybe a triplet might work there. And I think you'll be surprised. You can find some really cool places to add this. So I would love to know which of these are your favorite. Which of these do you use? What are your favorite little banjo tricks maybe I haven't covered today? Always happy to learn from you guys as well. And I'll see you next time.